Hey there, it's Rachel. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Support. As you can tell, it's the holiday episode, so happy holidays, everybody. And timely theme here, we're talking to Brad Raburn, one of our team members here at CWHO, about holiday behavioral health and what we can do to help each other and help ourselves through this fun, festive, frenetic time of year. So with that, just want to welcome Brad, and thanks again for listening.
Thank you for having me, Rachel and Jen. I appreciate you just having this time to kind of come and talk. Just a little quick intro. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor in Idaho. I've been working here and licensed here since 2014, and came by way of Arizona and Texas, as, life happens to take us different places, always excited to get settled in new places. And while I'm here, I, really enjoy the Idaho fly fishing and outdoor scene. And so right now, snow's on the ground, so a little bit less on the fly fishing area, but, really looking forward to, always enjoying the great things that Idaho offers.
Nice. So before we get into the meat of the behavioral health part, what are you doing for the holidays?
Yeah. So years ago, my wife and I decided that we didn't really care for the travel during the holidays. And so we are actually going to be staying home and spending time with our dogs, but also doing a few community events, such as like attending the Hallelujah Chorus. And then we'll join our family via Zoom right now and catch up with them during the warmer months when we can travel a little bit easier.
Super smart.
Yeah, that sounds like the way to do it. Minimal travel. I feel like hopefully next year we can be like, hey, there's minimal risk in travel next year, but we'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that one. Well, I think with holidays, there's this balance, right? It's really fun. It's great to see family, but it's also a lot of stress. I mean, especially for you, Brad, as somebody who works in behavioral health, are the holidays a particularly stressful time for you to be working? And what do you do as a provider this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, it definitely is a stressful time as a provider, but I think for everyone during this time of year, like we all kind of feel it. Like we're in that mode of like wanting to create memories, catch up with family members, reflect on, this whole year of happenings, but also trying to balance work, trying to balance life happenings as well. Incidentally, a recent article that I read by the American Psychiatric Association said that many people are expecting to and are feeling more stressed during this holiday season. Stress is going up, not down. I think like a lot of us had hoped. In talking with the individuals that, I engage in for, counseling and therapy services, like there's been less talk on COVID right now, but more stress, more worry with finances and making sure they have time to set aside to see family. So, specific worries, really have kind of included areas of like, can I afford the meals and food I'm used to having, paying those rising utility costs, affording holiday gifts, or even be able to find gifts because of stocking shortages, being able to afford that cost and find that time to travel and visit family. So I think stress right now is, a part of this season.
Yeah, definitely. And in the past, I never realized that I was stressed. I thought it was like excitement and maybe nervousness or some other feelings. So I guess now, like I'm older and I've realized, okay, that you're feeling stress. How can a person that maybe isn't aware that they're stressed, how would they identify that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jen. And I think first off, sometimes the excitement feels just like stress. So I don't think that, when we get that excitement, we feel that edge, but we also feel it when other things are going on. And so, when we're really looking to kind of identify, what is my stress level or how am I coping with things right now? One of the things I would suggest is to take a few minutes to stop and kind of be mindful. So for myself, I'm kind of a practical person. So I look for times where I can kind of multitask and do some of these things. So being mindful can just be something as simple as taking a few deep breaths, really kind of focusing and starting from my toes and paying attention to different areas of my body as I'm kind of like moving up, all the way from my toes, my limbs, my torso, all the way up into my head, and looking for tension, discomfort, and just being aware of even what's going through my mind during that time. And I can do that, when I'm getting ready and starting up my computer for the day. I can do that when I'm struggling to get out of bed, and, really kind of finding time that I don't have to set aside a whole lot of time to do that, but that check-in really helps us really notice where that stress is, because our body carries stress, like really specific areas that
Right.
are known to do that. It's like the throat area, our neck, our shoulders, our chest, even our stomach.
Right. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about identifying and a little bit about coping. So can you go and talk a little bit more about coping strategies specifically that would help during the holidays?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think one other thing, I'd like to kind of touch on is really what we're looking to do is reduce what's called the allostatic load. And so the allostatic load really kind of impacts our eating patterns, being able to fall and stay asleep, like being able to look at like our behaviors if they change, generally not for the better, kind of puts us on edge, makes us feel a little bit irritable at times if that allostatic load is high. So, we talked about kind of that mindfulness check-in as a way to reduce that allostatic load, but also remembering just to add some movement into your life. When it gets cold outside, as I talked about, like my fly fishing and my time outside kind of goes down. And so I have to be intentional, to be able to add those in there. Going on, short walks, parking the vehicle a little bit further from the store entrance, finding maybe a light workout video on YouTube. All these things can help. And there's other things too. There's apps, doing a search for box breathing, and also an app called Spiral Up. Both of these have been shown to kind of help and modulate mood and stress. Maybe a few other things as I'm thinking through this, doing some planning, really kind of being thoughtful. Like, what are those family obligations that I'm looking at? Like, are there traditions that I absolutely want to be a part of, and maybe other ones I can skip this year, or, spend a little bit less time on? Asking others for assistance. A lot of times we get into this mental state where we're thinking, man, if I'm busy and stressed, everybody's busy and stressed. But sometimes just asking for help can make that, go a little bit easier. Creating new traditions. That's how my wife and I's, kind of downtime focus kind of came into, is like we were looking to create a new tradition. And so, we looked for ways to really promote, self-health and also recovery time.
I love that. I think I'm just going to play the last couple minutes of Brad talking every night. He reminded me to breathe. I feel more calm after that. I feel like a weight has been lifted. So everybody just, connect with Brad. He's got a ton of time. Just kidding. Talking about self-care, right? No, but I think, there's things that we can do for ourselves. But then also there's things that we can do for each other, right? And I think particularly now's the season when we're around family and other loved ones, chosen family, friends. And sometimes it's incredibly joyful, and sometimes it's incredibly joyful and then also hard for those people. What can family and friends do to be supportive of somebody who might be having a tough time around the holidays?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first kind of point here, and the thing to keep in mind, is that sometimes we just need to approach everybody with a little bit more patience and a little bit more, grace of giving them some time. Being able to just let somebody have some time to cool off if they are kind of acting a little bit outside of their normal behaviors. And maybe after that time has passed, if you have the capacity yourself, maybe approach them, listen, let them vent. And it's always good to remember, like, most people when they're venting, they don't need us to solve their problems. They don't need us to make suggestions. And unless that's asked of us, just being there and hearing and understanding is that, very key and very supportive thing that we can do for others, you know? And the other thing to do, if it's right and, if it feels like it would be helpful, that gut instinct is telling you, we can share with others what works for us. A lot of times we learn from others and their experiences, and we're willing to try if somebody else is like, hey, this works for me. And so, I think those are some simple things, but also some very impactful things we can do to help others.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a good reminder because I like to fix things. I'm a problem solver. So when people come and vent to me, I'm like, well, have you tried this? And it's like, maybe they just need to listen. So I do try to remind myself, like, ask them, do you want me to, help you here? Or do you just want it to vent? Most of the times it's, no, Jen, shut up. And I'm like, okay. So kind of in the same vein of like family and, mental health, and there's like substance abuse and that kind of thing that can maybe go up during the holidays because we get stressed and we're like, oh, I'll have a beer or wine or whatever. And I like to have a wine with, dinner and stuff.
Yes.
So any words about substance and celebration?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think first off, when we're talking about this, I think we've all have those stories, right? We've been at that gathering. There's that one individual that had a little bit too much. And really when, we're talking about like, substance use during the holidays, it might be unpopular, but limiting our substance use really also reduces that allostatic load. It really kind of helps us be more mindful of what's happening inside. But it's also good to really kind of know for ourselves, what are those, triggers? What are those things that, kind of put us on edge? Certain people, certain situations, certain feelings. And if we notice those, that is a good indication to ourselves that we need to be a little bit more intentional in that situation. Kind of be, again, thoughtful about the invitations you accept. If some gatherings are a little bit more positive, some maybe are a little bit more stressful, and maybe just like modulate the amount of time that you dedicate to those things. Also, if you're the type of individual that are like, make a commitment, or for yourself, like, I just need to avoid certain substances during the holiday, being able to have a rehearsed kind of like denial or a rehearsed thing that you're going to say, simply saying no thank you, or having something that feels natural for you to use to kind of like move away from that. And then finally, also make sure that you've talked with your support systems. Talk with those, with how you're doing, those you can confide in, and also ask your support system, certain individuals, to check in on you during the holidays. All of that kind of helps us really be able to be mindful of how much, like substance use we're taking in, but also being willing to just kind of like watch over ourselves and our health.
I think that that's great. As somebody who, on my side of the family and my husband's side of the family, whenever we get together, there's always, lots of beer and wine and cheers and all of that. And I think it can be hard to step away from that sometimes, even when you're not feeling it, because it feels like denying the festivity and stuff. So I love the idea about having something rehearsed, because otherwise the easiest thing to do is say, all right, I'll have a headache in the morning, I guess. So I love that, and I think super helpful. I do have another question for you. I think this whole conversation is really soothing in the way that you're lighting out everything, and it's like, okay, this is gonna be okay. The holidays are a time to celebrate, and there's coping strategies. It seems like it can also be a really hard time for people who kind of seek perfection. Do you have any guidance for folks that kind of want to have that perfect experience and it's stressing them out?
Yeah, great question. Again, I'm actually about to say, like, that's kind of a hard question to really kind of line out, but I think it's very pertinent for those that are really looking for that experience. And I think the first thing, I would probably talk with somebody about is like, when you have a really meaningful experience, was it planned or was it being in the situation? And so, I think that would be the first area to really kind of think about is like, am I trying to create something out of, out of nothing, or am I just looking for an opportunity to create a memory? And a lot of times those things that are the most meaningful, those areas where, we carry something with us and say, like, that's a great memory, are those times where we find ourselves there in the moment. And so I think a lot of this kind of comes back to that central idea of being knowledgeable of where you are, but also being kind of in the here and now of what's going on. Enjoy the family, enjoy the experiences, even if it goes awry. Like if there's something of just being together and or getting to that holiday event, find something that like you're kind of like, hey, I can enjoy this to some extent, and then the other things will fall into place.
Awesome. I have a 4-year-old, so something will go awry, but I'm sure we'll also have great memories too. No,
I mean, that's something you
really
can count
appreciate
on, right? Something
Right.
going south or going left, and it's like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. But yeah, to your point, just go with the flow almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll have a better time.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a great spot for us to close out and just wish you, Brad, a happy holidays and say thank you so much. And thank you for creating a happier holidays for our listeners. We really appreciate it. And thanks for all you do. And to the life support listeners, enjoy that time with family, friends, and also maybe by yourself. If you just need to take a breather, we went for Brad. Just take a breather.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much, Brad. Thanks to everyone for listening in. Be sure to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button to catch a new episode every other Thursday. It really helps us get all this important information to more people. And with that, remember to support each other with some extra life support. Life Support is a podcast developed by Sihu with the support of a variety of funders. See our show notes for more info. It's where we talk to providers, experts, and others about their experiences with health and the systems that create it. This episode was edited and produced by Anthony Leone. For more information, visit us on the web at sihu.org.